Hello, welcome to more yoga with me, Emily. Thank you so much for joining me today. Not sure what that little hand thing was. I hope that you are all doing well. I thought today we have let me start again. For today, I thought I would do a more gentle introduction to movement with breath, or what we would call flow or vinyasa yoga. I know that some people get a little bit scared about the idea of, a faster paced class, but it's an idea that we can bring into a slower or gentler class like Hatha. This idea of moving with the breath, but in a gentle way. So it's still going to be a gentle practice, but it'll get you sort of figuring out how this movement with breath can be a really powerful practice for keeping us present. Enough chit chat. Find a tall seat. You can be cross-legged if you wish, or on your shins. You could have your legs outstretched. Sometimes feels really nice to sit up on something like a folded blanket. Okay, and I'll invite you to close your eyes unless you feel your eyelids flickering or if it triggers something. And then for a few breaths, inhale through your nose and exhale, sigh your breath away. A couple more. And then continue breathing however you need to, whether it's in and out through your nose or your mouth. Notice how it feels really open or spacious, or maybe you notice some sticky or choppy spots along the way. And if you notice those sticky or choppy spots, you might gently try to lengthen through those parts of the breath to smooth it out ever so slightly without forcing it. And then keeping your eyes closed, unless you need to see what we're doing, as you inhale, start to just gently lift your arms up overhead. And exhale, lower them back down. Inhale to lift your arms. And exhale to lower. And then start to notice or focus on if the breath helps the movement, or maybe the movement helps the breath. You can start to freestyle the arms, take them out wide if you wish. You could do one at a time, but the whole time just moving with breath. Inhaling to take the arms up or away from the body, and exhaling to gently lower them back. Last few breaths here. And then for your last couple breaths, return to just movement up and down through the center. And at the end of your next exhale, allow the hands, the arms to rest. A couple breaths. To just notice whatever you notice. And then as you inhale, lift the heart up to the sky. Little wrap of the shoulder blades toward each other. Maybe you look up. Exhale, round through the spine. Inhale to lift the heart. Exhale, round. So a few more of these seated cat and cow undulations on your own time, on your own breath. And just see how that movement with breath feels here. And it could be really slow and unctuous. If you want, you could make it sharp and fiery like bellows. And on your next inhale, come back to center. As you exhale, start to draw circles with your torso, down and forward. Inhale up. Exhale down. Inhale up. So a few more of these Sufi grinds on your own time. And again, these could be really small and gentle. You could let the head flop around. You could keep it in the torso, right, wherever you need to go. A few more in this direction. And then on your next exhale, gently switch directions. A few more. And then on your next inhale, pause back at the top. Woo, gather your equilibrium if you're feeling a little bit dizzy. And then make your way to hands and knees. So eventually setting up with knees underneath hips, toes can be tucked or untucked behind you, and then hands outer shoulder width apart or wider. So when you look down, you want to see the outer edge of your shoulder in line with the middle of your wrist, and in fact, the V of your peace fingers also pointing to the middle of the wrist. That's giving you a little bit of external rotation, but it means it's a really strong position anytime you're bearing weight on your hands. And then again, back to movement with breath. Inhale, lift the tailbone, hollow through the lower back, broaden through the collarbones. Exhale, round through the spine. And inhale to dip the belly into cow. Exhale to round the spine into cat. So now that the hips aren't pinned on the earth, you can probably get much bigger range of motion through your spine. Last breath here. And then come back to center. Little draw of belly button to spine. Inhale here. As you exhale, start to bring your right shoulder toward your right hip. Maybe you look over the shoulder. And then inhale back to center. Exhale, left ear to shoulder. And shoulder to hip. And then inhale back to center. Exhale to the right. And inhale. Exhale to the left. And inhale, and then pause back in center. So we're going to mix that together with the cat and cow. So inhale, dip the belly. Exhale, send the hips to the ribs to the right, look to the left, and then come all the way up to the sky. Ribs go to the left, look to the right, and then dip into cow. And we start to draw these big barrel rolls through the torso and the shoulders. And on your next exhale, switch directions to the left first, and then up to the sky, and then over to the right. A couple more. And then inhale, coming back to center, little wiggle, release, shake it out. All right. Send your hips back toward your heels. So we're seated on our shins now. This, I know for some people, is a super uncomfortable position. So maybe you tuck your toes and send your heels or your hips back, although that can be quite intense as well. And we won't be here for long. And in fact, the longer that I speak, the longer we'll be here. But we're going to do a little sequence of movement with breath. And I'm going to talk you through it for 3 rounds. And then we'll just try it 3 rounds in silence, or maybe I'll just gently remind you what we're doing. But it's super simple. So from this seated on the shins in sort of kneeling position. Inhale, the arms up overhead. As you exhale, start to bow forward. Bring your hands to the mat and allow the head to come down. So this is a narrow child's pose. Couple breaths here. There's probably quite a bit of compression in the belly, but it's really good for releasing into the low back. And then inhale, tuck your toes. As you exhale, lift the hips up into a downward facing dog. So a couple breaths here. You could pedal the heels if you wish, or you might just feel what it's like to be still here. One more inhale. As you exhale, gently lower your knees to the earth and come back to child's pose. And on your next inhale, come all the way back up to on your shins. Exhale the hands to prayer. And a couple breaths here. So let's speed it up a little bit. Inhale the arms overhead. Exhale, bow forward, child's pose. Tuck your toes. Exhale, lift the hips up, downward facing dog. Inhale here. Exhale, release the shins back to the earth, hips back to the heels. And inhale all the way back up to the sky. Exhale, hands to prayer. Inhale to the sky. Exhale, fold forward, child's pose. One breath here. Inhale, tuck your toes. Exhale, downward facing dog. One breath here. Exhale, lower the knees to the earth, hips back. One breath in child's pose. Inhale all the way back up to the sky. Exhale, hands to prayer. One breath. 3 more rounds. Inhale to the sky. Exhale into child's pose. Inhale, tuck the toes. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, lower the shins to the earth. Exhale, hips back to child's pose. Inhale, back up to that kneeling. Exhale, hands to prayer. Inhale to the sky. Exhale, child's pose. Inhale, tuck the toes. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, lower the shins to the earth. Exhale, child's pose. Inhale, back up to the sky. Exhale, hands to prayer. Last round. Inhale to the sky. Exhale, child's pose. Inhale, tuck the toes. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, lower the shins. Exhale, child's pose. Inhale all the way up to the sky. And exhale, hands to prayer. A couple breaths here. And then gently shake it out. And then make your way back to hands and knees. Little wiggle, little shake. You might tuck the toes. You might gently tap out the tops of the feet. And on your inhale, step or sweep your right leg forward so that you come into a half kneeling. Now I'm going to prop and this nice chip foam block underneath my back knee and give me a little bit more padding here. Right? And you don't want to bust your knees on a really thin surface. So if you have a pillow or a blanket or something like that that you can bring underneath your knees, then great. If you have blocks, they can be really useful, or even tins or Tupperware containers. And then inhale, come up to half kneeling. So we're going to back out of the hips, right? So you're really just here in this sort of like kind of proposal position. It's very gender normative of me. Hug the legs toward each other, squeeze the bum on the back leg, belly button to spine, shoulder blades on the back, and then start to shift into that front knee. And I want you to really squeeze the bum on the back leg. Toes can be tucked or untucked on that back foot. But you're probably not super far down in your position. You're probably up quite high. And now I want you to think of coming down a little bit and then back up. Right, so now you get a slightly deeper through the groin, slightly deeper through the hip flexor. So a couple more of these. Maybe the hands come to blocks if you have them as you come down. Maybe they go all the way down to the floor, right, depending on your level of comfort. And the next time that you come down, pause there. Okay, squeeze the bum on that back leg. Really ground that front heel. And on your exhale, shift your hips back as you extend through the front leg for half splits. So if you don't have blocks, hands could be on hips, or maybe you're close enough to a wall that one hand could be on the wall. Get hands on blocks or on the earth. Really wrap that left hip forward as you draw the right hip back. And then point and flex through the front foot. You can rock side to side on the heel, massaging it out. Okay. And then pause here. Peel the toes back toward your face even more. Little micro bend on this front knee, right? You don't want to jam that knee open. And then some of you might stay up high. Some of you might fold or bow into the pose, into the stretch. Last breath here. And let's link those two poses together. So as you inhale, ripple forward, back into that front knee. Shift through the hips, lift the heart. Exhale, send the hips back, extending through the front leg, half splits. And so very gently now, moving with breath between your low lunge and your half splits. Exhale back. Inhale forward. And the next time that you come forward, pause there. Okay. Bring both hands inside the front foot. So you're going to heel into that front foot out a little bit wider. And then keep the front foot parallel today. Right? So rather than letting it turn out, you're going to back out of the hips. So lift the hips up and then hug that front knee in toward your shoulder. Right? So right shoulder and right knee in theory are becoming best of friends. Sometimes you can get a little bit more space for the hips here if you spin that back shin parallel to the short edge of the mat, so you can be here or here, right? Whatever feels better for you. And then keeping those hips high as you exhale, start to melt the heart low. Still hugging that front knee in. Option 1, stay here. Option 2, thread the right arm underneath the right leg to send and bring the hand to the outside of the foot. Option 3, spread your wings. Option 4, maybe you bind the hands around that thigh. But again, hips high, heart low. Right, so wherever you need to go. Last couple breaths here. And then slowly, gently back out of the hips. I always kind of feel like I'm playing Twister here. And then turn that front foot out. So the toes are pointing out. And then maybe heel and toe it out even wider. So your foot could be way off the front edge of your mat. Shift your hips back as you extend through the front leg. So now we've got a wide leg half splits. Okay, so your hands can be on your hips Or if you have blocks, then bring them inside the front foot, right? Maybe your hands are on the earth. Some of you I know might decide, especially if you've got a slippery surface, to start to slide that front heel out. Make sure that you're not leading with the hip though. So really think of socketing that femur back into the hip socket, staying as high or as low as you need to go. Right, and even if you're up in that really sort of supported variation, you still want to think of dragging that front heel back toward you. Little microbend on that front knee, so you're not jamming that knee open, particularly if you're out wide, right? You don't want that knee hyperextending and bearing the weight of your body here. Last couple breaths. And then slowly back out of that front hip, and then swing your right knee back to the floor. Little wiggle, little shake, little cat and cow. And then we'll swap to the opposite side. So if you have a block or a pad for that front knee, then go ahead and bring it there. Step the left foot forward, and then come up to half kneeling again. So you're totally backed out of the hips, right? Hug the legs toward each other, really squeeze the bum on that right side, belly bend to spine, shoulder blades on the back, and then start to shift forward into that front foot. Make sure that the front foot's far enough forward that you're not going to feel like the heel has to lift as we move here. Right. And so a couple breaths here. Really squeeze the bum on that right leg. As you exhale or inhale, start to come a little bit lower. Exhale up. And inhale down. Exhale up. Maybe feel that the glutes on that front leg starting to work a little bit. Right? But you don't want to go collapsing at the bottom, right? So there's still activation the whole time. It becomes a really safe way to stretch. And then slowly, the next time that you come down, pause there. Right? Hands could be on blocks, on the floor. You can have them up in that yoga thing if you wish. Last couple of breaths here. Really squeeze the bum on that back leg. And then exhale, shift your hips back as you extend through the front leg, half splits. So again, hands could be on hips or on a wall, wherever they need to go. And point and flex the front toes. Rock side to side on the heel. And then start to peel the toes back toward your face. Little microbend on that front knee. Right hip comes forward, left hip draws back. It's almost as if you're trying to drag the front heel back toward you, right? Flare the toes on the front foot. Couple breaths here. Maybe you're staying up high. Maybe you bow down. And then let's start to link those two together. So as you inhale, rock back into the front knee, sink through the hips, lift through the heart. Exhale, shift the hips back, extending through the front leg. Inhale, forward. Exhale back. So really beautiful, fluid movement. Imagining like your seaweed anchored to the seafloor, but moving with the waves, with the tides. The next time that you come forward, pause there. Bring both hands inside the front foot. Heel and toe out a little bit wider, but again, keep that foot parallel today. Hug the left shin and knee in toward your shoulder. Option one is to stay here, hips high. Exhale, melt the heart low. Maybe you spin the back shin parallel to the short edge of the mat. Maybe you start to snuggle that left arm underneath the left leg, palm to the outside of the foot. You could spread your wings. You could bind wherever you need to go. Last few breaths here, really hugging that front knee in toward you. Keep the hips high, melt the heart low. And then slowly, as you inhale, back out of the hips. Heel into that front foot out even a little wider and on an angle, and then shift your hips back as you extend through that front leg. So wide leg now, half splits. Hands could be on the floor or on blocks or on your hips. And I know some of you, again, maybe you slide out, but again, think of pulling that front heel back toward you, wherever you may be in this pose. Right, really wrap that left hip back as you draw the right hip forward. Micro bend on that front knee. You can see I'm not locking it out, right? It's quite bent. Couple breaths here. You don't want to be wrapping the hips so far that you're twisting, right? Just so that they're parallel. Last breath here. And slowly inhale back out of it. Shift the knee down, back to hands and knees. Little wiggle, little shake, whatever you need. And then maybe you walk your knees back, shift the weight into your hands, and exhale, lower all the way down to the earth. Little wiggle of the hips from side to side. Untuck your toes, press the tops of the feet into the floor, so much so you feel your kneecaps lift away, tailbone to the back wall, feel your belly button engage toward your spine, and then reach your arms back along beside you. Palms could be up or down. And then inhale, lift the heart forward and up. Exhale, lower back down. Couple more. The next time that you lift up, pause there. Maybe you do weight the hands. Maybe some of you reach the legs so far back that they do weight as well. And coming into one long line of locust. Keep the back of the neck long, looking down rather than forward. Maybe you inhale, lift everything up a little bit higher. Exhale, lower all the way down. One cheek to the floor. Deep belly breaths to release through the lower back. And then inhale, come back to center. Roll over to your back. Hug your knees into your chest, little rock from side to side. And then bring your feet to the floor, about hip width apart or so. And then feet parallel, close enough into your bum. You can tickle your heels with your fingertips. And we're going to flow in and out of bridge. So as you inhale, lift the hips up. Exhale, lower back down. So a few more of these. Inhaling to lift, exhaling to lower. And as you lift up, make sure the knees don't wing out to the side. You want to try and keep your legs neutral, right? The whole time. So the thighs will not touch. As long as your feet are hip width apart, right, there will be space. Certainly your knees will not be touching. I guess it all depends on the shape of your legs. You don't want your knees too wide or too close. And on your next exhale, pause there at the bottom. And then hug your knees into your chest, little rock from side to side. You can draw circles with your knees. Maybe they go in the same direction as each other. Maybe they go in opposite directions from each other. And then take your right arm out to the side. You might shift the hips right a little bit to start with. As you exhale, lower your knees to the left for a twist. A few breaths here, slow and sweet. And then inhale, come back to center, reset your spine and your pelvis. You might shift the hips left a little bit, and then exhale, lower the knees to the right. A few breaths. And then slowly inhale, come back to center. If there's anything else you feel like you need before your rest, it could be some posture, maybe some breath work or meditation. Feel free where you need to go, or go where you need to go. You can always pause the video or just let it run through as you're finishing up your own practice. And then start to think about where you would like to go for your rest. You could be flat on your back, legs bent or straight. You could rest on your side or in child's pose or seated meditation, wherever you land. For 3 breaths, inhale through your nose. Exhale, sigh your breath away. Couple more. Continue breathing however you need to, whether it's in and out through your nose or your mouth. With each exhale, let your body melt a little bit deeper into the earth. Let go of any last muscle gripping or tension. Let go of any breath control. Stay here longer if you can, 5 or 10 minutes. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste.